we're back with another episode of the Young Black Suburban. I have a very special guest on. He is a former boxing champion. Also, he's now a movie star. Someone that I've known my whole life, basically. When you start boxing, you always have people that you look up to. You have people that came before you. You have people that when you see them, you know that you have to respect them. This person is one of those people I have on my show, the Welsh road warrior, Dean Williams. How you doing, Dean?
Awesome, brother. Pleasure to be here. Awesome seeing you, man.
Yep, definitely. Dean is somebody who's known me before I've known myself, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I met Tim Jr. in camp. I was sparring partner for his dad, starting back as far as I can remember. I think it was 1995, and I remember Tim being in the camp and running around. And then when I met Tanya and we went to another camp with your dad, that we were bringing you candies and stuff, like,
me and my sister.
Posters. I think we got some posters or something for you guys.
Definitely.
And that's how I met you, long time ago.
I believe the first time I was up where you guys are from, my little sister, who is now, she has to be 33. Yeah, she's 33. She was like probably just out of diapers or something back then.
I met Tanya in '97, and then we went back. I went back to camp with the champ then, and so it was around 97, 97, 98. I think when I first met you.
She might have been about 6-7 years old, maybe.
Yeah.
There's a way that you got to meet us. It didn't just. Obviously, from your accent, you didn't just show up one day. You were from somewhere else. Where are you from?
Well, I'm originally from a small town in Wales called Merthyr Tydfil. Okay. A real solid boxing town. A lot of elite fighters come out of there. Great fighters come out of there. Johnny Owen, Howard Winstone, just Eddie Thomas, just a couple to name. But those are legends. Where I come from, and so it's a street fighting. Street fighting's a way of life in Wales, where I grew up and whatnot. And I started boxing when I was 8 years old, actually, and I was looking, I was getting picked on and whatnot in school, and I was looking for some direction. So I went into a boxing gym, and they took me in like family pretty much, but it wasn't an easy task. The first day. They showed me some of this and some of that. Within 2 hours, I'm in a ring with a kid that had 26 fights. He was Welsh champion. And I was 8 years old. Like I said, imagine being 8 years old and doing this. Right. I even borrowed somebody's mouthpiece. They were like, I was gagging. They were trying to get somebody's mouth. It was such old school. This is back in 1980.
Right.
And, so they were... not very hygienic back then, but I borrowed somebody's mouthpiece and went in the ring, no headgear, just the gloves, and 3 rounds, and I got bloodied nose, and I was tears running down my face at the end of it.
Right.
And I remember my coach, who's still alive today, Gareth Donovan. He was a elite fighter himself, like 5-time Welsh champion. And I remember him turning to me and saying, this is boxing. We're not playing around. You can't play in here. This is what it's all about. Yeah. And remember, I was saying to him, I'll be back tomorrow. But in my mind, I'm thinking no. And I went to school the next day, and got picked on again. The bullies are there. And I thought to myself when I went back home, my dad was away in the Navy, and I didn't really see my dad growing up much because he was in the British Navy, and he'd be gone a lot. Mm-hmm. So I went back home, and I was like, what am I going to do? Go back to the gym. And I went back to the gym, and just by showing up there the next time I went there, they all immediate respect, love and respect, and give me something I weren't really used to, and kind of went from there.
Isn't it crazy how you can remember your first time sparring as a boxer? You can remember crying. You can remember the smell. I remember the first time. I probably would have sparred before that, but I remember my first real spar. I was in Foxwoods. My uncle Salim brought up guys from Williamsport, and they had already been fighting, already winning the Golden Gloves. I remember just like you. I probably wasn't bloody because my dad was there.
Right.
And my uncle was there. But I remember crying. I remember like, what the hell? you said that you cried too.
I did.
Do you remember being so crazy that you went back again?
It was absolutely. I was probably concussed. That's why I went back there.
You were still dizzy.
I'm still dizzy. I remember going to school. A lot of people that know me in school and that where I came from. I was like a gym joker, but I was having these fights, and I had a lot of fights, and there was no headgear, and so I was like, they were like professional fights. And they were in smoky bars and clubs, which smoking is banned now almost everywhere. But back then, in 1980, smoke was everywhere, right. And I'd go into these clubs and bars and fight these fights, and next day I'd be going to school and I'd be giggling and not realizing I was obviously a little concussed.
It obviously affected your schoolwork.
Obviously affected my schoolwork a lot. Absolutely.
I try to tell people all the time, because obviously I've traveled. I haven't been to Wales, but people don't understand that Wales is basically inside of England.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
How the culture of fighting is when you're in England is something that I don't think Americans really can grasp on how big of a sport boxing is. How big was boxing when you were growing up?
Oh, it was massive. It was like everybody was doing. I mean, everybody's a fighter. Where I come from, I grew up in a fighting environment. The UK. Bare knuckle fighting, they still do it, to this day kind of thing.
Right.
But, I'm in a street fight and a disagreement, where men is, it's like the Stone Age almost, where men are men. And, there's no police. I mean, the police don't even carry guns to this day, unless at the airports or in the city in London. But, I mean, there's no weapons, nothing. So it was just, bare knuckles. And it was a mano a mano. It was never really gang fighting where they jump in. It was always a respectful thing where I would fight a kid that maybe had 20 friends standing behind him, and I would beat him. I'd beat the kid, and that was it. That was it right there.
You guys got up.
They got up and shook hands.
Maybe shake hands. I always thought from traveling to the UK myself that they were a little bit more primitive than Americans as far as the culture of settling your differences with a fight and then being men afterwards. In America, we are not like that. Someone's going to get beat up. They're going to go get a gun, come back to the scene,
right,
and try to settle it that way.
Right.
I always found it that boxing, kind of coming from that area of the world a little bit, is a gentleman's sport because of that. Did you always find that when you were fighting on the street or in the ring that you never really wanted to hurt anybody, that you never really wanted to, it wasn't in your heart to be malice?
Well, in some cases, in most cases, no, but in some cases, you had to be, but at the end of the day, how could I say it? It's just a respect for one another. You'd take it so far, but not over the line kind of thing, where over here, I know it goes beyond, beyond and whatnot. So it's almost like it's definitely a gentleman's sport, boxing in the UK. I mean, it's discipline. I preach the old school methods. I'm almost 50 years old, so I have these old school methods that I teach, and respect and discipline.
That's crazy to say you're almost 50, but you have the old school methods. Well, we know people like Country,
right,
who is, I don't know how old he is.
Old school.
84. Slim Jim Robinson, who was my dad's trainer,
right,
who has been gone for about 10 years,
legend,
15
years. Yeah.
Slim. And now you're the person passing on your knowledge,
right,
as the old head.
Yes.
We haven't gotten into why you came to America, but as far as that goes, do you feel like now it's your turn to be the person, not the gatekeeper, because that means something different in boxing, but you're the person to pass on the knowledge? Are you at that stage in your life?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been doing the training now for I think about 17 years. We're transitioning from a fighter to a trainer is totally different. You know, just because somebody can do something and compete don't mean that they can actually teach it. But from my experiences, which we'll talk about, like, you know, from being in the British Navy and whatnot, leadership skills that kind of helped me transform into the coach that I am today. So, you know, I preach, I'm hard on discipline, self-discipline, self-respect, and doing the right things. And I always tell my fighters, you know, it's not about what you do in the gym, it's about what you do outside is just as important.
Oh, definitely. You know, that's why Muhammad Ali is the greatest.
Absolutely.
Not because of everything that he did out in the ring, but everything as a whole. You know, we have to be a whole as boxers.
Right.
You've seen many of boxers come when all they can do is fight. At the end of that, what happens? They have nothing.
Right.
You made a decision, though, at one point that boxing was going to be your life. That this is going to be the way that, you know, things were going to happen.
Well, actually, it didn't go like that. Okay. Actually, so I'd done the boxing, you know, and I had a lot of fights. You know, I had probably like a whole career before I went in the British Navy. I got into the British Navy and I traveled the world. I was fortunate enough to be one of the sailors on the QE2, got to travel the world and whatnot. And when I came out of the Navy, so I had a little time away from the boxing, but I still come back and train on leave and whatnot. Maybe sneak a fight in or whatever. But when I came out of the Navy, I booked a one-way ticket to Australia and didn't know anybody, went down there. You know, because I'd been around the world and I went back to my neighborhood and I felt like, you know, there was more for me to do.
What was your job in the Navy?
I was like a sailor, like a deckhand, like a petty. I was a quartermaster, which I would steer some of the duties. I would maintain the lifeboats, you know, be on the bridge a lot, you know, navigation, steer the ship. I mean, I have a ticket to steering the ship, any ship in the world, when I could, you know, steer the QE2. So,
right. So you were removed from boxing when you were
Correct.
on the Navy ship.
Right. And then when I went to Australia, I didn't go there with the intentions of doing boxing. I went there with the intentions of taking my tickets, and neutralizing them, working in the tugboats and being involved, you know, in the port of Fremantle, Western Australia. So I go there and kind of trying to network, but after being there for a couple of weeks, I thought the place that I'm going to relate to the most is a boxing gym. So I scouted out the local boxing gym, which was Bulldogs Boxing Gym in Fremantle, and went in there, and the trainer there was Laurie Flanders, and he'd worked with a lot of, you know, world-class fighters, Australian champions and whatnot, and they took me in. I immediately felt that I was at home, I had family. And then the guys, you know, and rather than, I got totally sidetracked 360 rather than working the tugboats, and I decided to get involved with a team, and they were like, oh, you know, we're doing bouncing, security work and whatnot. And it wasn't just security work, it was like bodyguard work, because I ended up working for Metallica and working for some famous people, you know, in Australia. NXS came through, I worked for them. And so it was more than just like being a bouncer and whatnot, you know, that you were trained. Right. And I was fighting at the same time. So I was living my life in Australia, boxing and bouncing and doing, you know, bodyguard work. And that's where it was going.
So how did you transfer into 100%? You know, I'm going to turn pro.
Still didn't have that mindset. A lot of people in Australia were saying to me, you know, I was winning my fights, had a lot of power. You know, I was obviously naturally gifted and I had experience since I was 8. But it still wasn't my goal. Like, you know, it wasn't what God wanted me to do at that particular moment.
How old were you in Australia?
It's about 20 years old. I was 20 years old. I mean, don't forget, in the UK, we finished high school at 16.
Yeah.
So it's a different world, like, you know,
and also it's a different jump from the UK to Australia. Us in America, we kind of think you're similar, but when you're in the UK, you realize that no, Australia is not the same as the UK. How was that in your mind? Like, man, I'm going to move to Australia, going to do this here.
Do you know what? It was like Australia was was a lot like the UK in a lot of people that they drink a lot, they party a lot, and there was the environment was very similar. A lot of British, they migrated to Australia and whatnot, so there's a lot of English and British there and whatnot. So but the lifestyle was kind of similar, to Wales. Just the weather was a lot nicer,
But you called it quits at one point as far as Australia goes. I
didn't call it quits. It was like, again, it was just, nothing was planned. It was just, I met somebody and, they seen a potential in me, and I came to, they believed that I could become a champion. Mm-hmm. And I came to, they said, if you come to America with me, come back to New York, to Brooklyn, I can pull you around the best fighters and the best trainers in the world. Mm-hmm. And I believe that you have a character, because, at the end of the day, you have to have a character. I said that with all my fighters and whatnot. I had the character that I could do something, that he believed that I could do something with myself. And I told my mates in Australia that I was going to leave Australia, and just met this person, briefly kind of thing, but I felt that, I have strong faith in God, and I was fearless. So I thought, it's an opportunity to go from Fremantle, Australia, living on the beach, practically living on the beach I was, to Brooklyn, New York. Yeah. And so I made the transition. It's back in 1994, I believe.
And you had no pro fights at that time?
No pro fights.
So you made your pro debut in America, being from the UK, by way of Australia,
right.
Hometown now, Brooklyn.
Right.
Wow, so that must have been a mind-blowing experience. Do you remember preparing for your first fight? Which gym were you in
Well, it didn't work like that. It wasn't like I just came here and then they yelled,
tell me the whole thing.
They didn't put, it wasn't like the yellow brick road, where you come here and everything's going to, line up the fighters and become a champ. It didn't actually work out like that at all.
I was a little bit different.
I came here and I started training in Gleason's. I was training every day with Arturo Gatti. Mm-hmm. Arturo Gatti came down. We all know Arturo Gatti with Mickey Ward and whatnot. Arturo Gatti was just a kid. And I think he had a record about 14 and something, and he had a couple of losses, 14 and 3. I can't remember.
As an amateur?
No, as a professional. Arturo Gatti, yeah. So we're in Gleason's together, and we had the same coach. His coach was Hector Roca, and my coach was Hector Roca. He was like the dean of the gym, he was the main coach there. Anybody that had any potential was going to train with Hector Roca. And so the first guy I sparred with when I was there, they put me in a ring, and there's a lot of Spanish, Mexican, in the gym, and I was like one of the few white guys. And then they put me in a gym with another white guy, and that white guy was Joe Gatti, and Joe Gatti, who was ranked number 3 in the world. So I think he had either just fought Terry Norris, I believe, a year ago for the championship of the world. And but I didn't know none of this. They just put me in the ring. I said, well, who's this guy? Trainer said, Hector, just go out there, just be yourself. Yeah. Let's get a look at you. Got a lot of attention. Everybody's the new kid, fresh meat in the gym. Mm-hmm. And I go out there. I made a really good account of myself, and I landed some really hard shots on Joe Gatti, and I hurt him a couple of times. And when I got at the ring, it was he was very gracious and humble, and both of us were. That's what boxing is, it's humble in sport. Definitely. And he we talked, and then Arturo, that's my brother, and I realized who they were, and I kind of went from there.
Nice. I trained at Gleason's for about a summer. I was probably only about 12, 13, but the atmosphere there is similar to Philadelphia boxing gyms, where you might run into a world champ and not even know it. I remember being up there seeing Zab Judah before I knew who he was, and just being in that atmosphere as somebody that's from another country. Was there a difference between the traditional UK gym and the American, not just American gym? Because you can go to a gym here and anybody could go. But you go to Gleason's and you're going to be a professional fighter, you're going to bump shoulders with some people.
Absolutely.
Did you feel like, wow, this is a culture shock?
Funny you should say that about Zab Judah. I know Zab, good friend of mine. I sparred with his brother Daniel many times.
Yeah.
And Daniel Judah, I was he was a southpaw, and I had no problem with southpaws. I know your dad didn't have a problem with southpaws. I had an easy time with them myself.
Yeah,
southpaws
mean left-handed fighters. Not everybody on the podcast.
But I was trained. My first coach was a southpaw, and I have footage from when I was a little boy. And he would maneuver around the ring, and there was a lot of little guys like myself. I was, so he would move with me because I couldn't get sparring. They were either too big or whatever. And he would move around the ring with me, and he was a southpaw, and he was a really good southpaw too. So that's where I learned that from. But with Daniel Judah, this was one of my first experiences in Gleason's where I got to really feel that I was in America. And Zab Judah, we were getting ready to spar, and Zab was there, and I'm like, Junior Jones was there, Poison Junior Jones was there, and everybody, Toragati, everybody's there. So I get in the ring, and I'm having my way with him. I'm having my way with Daniel. And I remember Zab Judah on the ropes coming up. He was, down below, but he came up while we were sparring, and he had both hands, and he was like flipping out, screaming at his brother to fight back, me back, And it was a very exciting experience and whatnot. But that was, I really felt the international.
A little bit of a rivalry. Like,
yes.
You can't get beat by this guy.
Yes. That's what I could.
And how did you feel about the town itself outside of boxing? Living in, did you live in Brooklyn?
I lived in Brooklyn.
Yeah. How did you feel about coming to America from the beach that you were living on, tan? Coming to 3 feet of snow sometimes.
Funny you should say that because 94, guys, you got to think back. 94, we had the worst blizzard in almost history. So I went from living on the beach to the worst blizzard. But honest to God, it was just, it was all an experience. And, it was around really, cool people that I'd watched on TV. Don't forget, I grew up in Merthyr, Wales. So I'm looking, I'm training around Junior Jones and then country, but we both know.
He's my godfather, actually.
Okay, so your godfather, it was in the gym, and that's how I got to spar with your dad.
That's the progression. A lot of people they see these people on TV, they think they just got there.
Right.
They think that Canelo Alvarez just showed up.
Right.
And he is the #1 pay-per-view seller in the world. They don't see the person that stepped in, or how Canelo stepped into that gym the first time, was crying after that first sparring session, had to find another trainer to take him farther, travel here, travel there. You did that. And the percentage of fighters that actually make it that far is very, very slim. You did that, and you didn't even have a pro fight yet. You came to America for the American dream.
Absolutely.
After your career got started and everything, did you still have the optimism to keep going, that you're going to be a world champion? Did you feel like, oh man, my name is going to be in Vegas, everything?
Believe it or not, I never really, I appreciate it one day at a time, and a positive attitude. And I was having a lot of fun being a sparring partner for a 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. I was blessed then to get involved with Spawn Thomas, a Hitman Hearns, who was one of my idols. And, growing up, and because I was a tall, lanky kid growing up in Wales, I was always, always at the height on everybody and the reach. So, like, when I would watch fighters, I'd watch the Tommy Hearns fight a lot, Sugar Ray Leonard, just the way he handled himself and whatnot, and used his that his range and his reach and everything. So I'd like to I wanted to mold myself on him. Now I have the opportunity to actually be in the ring with him. And Manny was bringing him down because he had, we were in camp with Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis is there. This was in the Poconos. I was living in Brooklyn, and this was in Caesars in Brookdale.
Right.
And I'm sure you've been there.
Yeah, well, I've drove past it. I've never been in there. That's on the way to Foxwoods, right?
No, it's actually it's on the way to Mount Pocono. Foxwoods would be down there by Marshall's Creek. You can drive past it and then go all the way down 940. Yeah, you can go that way.
I just remember passing by it. And my dad saying that's where Lennox is training.
You can go that direction.
We're training
come off the highway.
Over
yeah,
here.
That's right. Yeah.
But you're experiencing life basically. You're in here experiencing with people that you said that are on TV. You're still training though. You're still got to fight another human being at that time.
Right.
Are you in here like thinking, oh, I'm in the best shape of my life? Or what state of mind are you at? Or you're just enjoying life?
Do you know, I was enjoying life and, sparring with all these great fighters and whatnot. And then even Larry Holmes, I sparring partner for Larry Holmes before I was an amateur, with a lot of experience, obviously, in 2 different countries, 2 different cultures.
Yeah.
So it's... I'm in the ring with Larry Holmes and everything. I remember Larry saying, "What are you doing?" Like they were, what am I going to do? And one of his sparring partners, Art Bayless, his actually main sparring partner, said to me, who I sparred a lot with too, and his trainer, Sal Manby, who I sparred on a daily basis, Sal Will Manby, a great fighter, God bless his soul, a great person and whatnot. He gave me a lot of good schooling, explaining and what to do and whatnot. And I was still an amateur. So they were like, what are you going to do, Dean? Are you going to turn pro or what? And I was like 26 and I was like, let's give it a go. Let's do it. So they connected me with an attorney actually Larry Holmes' lawyer, and in Allenstown, and he was running shows down there, and that's how I made my professional debut, I believe, in 1998.
Wow. For me, I'm thinking, man, 26. That's kind of late for a lot of people to start to turn pro. But if we're sitting here listening to your story, you've been fighting since you were 8 years old. You've been fighting real fights.
Right, real fights. And
in your country,
right.
Where you might, bare knuckle is not an easy thing. You're hurting your hands, somebody's getting cut.
Right.
So you're conditioned already.
My life was a fight already, so it was nothing different. Now I'm just going to be under the bright lights and whatnot, but, I come from a struggle. I wasn't, really close to my folks. Like, it was like, a distant relationship with everybody. Pretty much, they just left me go, kind of thing. And I didn't really have no family support and whatnot. I was on my own, and I was on my own in this country. And it's not like anybody was coming to help me or do anything. I was like, I had to find my way. Yeah. So it was an easy task, but. What got me through life is having strong faith in God, and self-belief. When everybody around me didn't believe in me, I believed in me, so I never give up on that. And that's why I try to instill in my young fighters.
Fighter,
right?
There's no way around that. It's just you, another person. You can't blame anybody else for any of your mistakes or anything. You got to go in there and that's what separates us from other people. You had your pro debut at 26. Do you remember being in the dressing room?
I do.
How it felt?
Do you know, it was crazy because the coach I had, I was training down in, I was all over the place. And that was one of the things that made it tough for my career because, I was a young lad and everybody, I was a really, exciting, good fighter. But then, I had a lot of people in boxing, if you know the boxing, come here, come do this and come do that. And so Diego Rosario was my coach at the time. And I was sparring down in Jersey City, downtown. and no, Patterson, sorry. They're in Patterson, New Jersey, at the PAL gym. Diego Rosario was my coach. So he had another fighter, Scott DePompe. And so I get to this is how my pro debut worked out, by the way. So I get to the fight. They told me this kid was like 2-2. So I'm like, okay. But he backed out. They were like, this kid's not going to fight. You're not fighting that kid. You fight another kid. Well, hopefully we'll have you somebody by tonight. So I'm like, okay, go get something to eat. I'm there. It's cold in the dress room. You know, they're all. This is my pro debut. Nobody was around me. No family. You know, I only had my girlfriend Tanya, who was who couldn't come back. You know, it was all rules and regulations and whatnot. Right. So I'm by myself. His fight, Scott DePompe's fight, was right before my fight. So I'm sitting there by myself, cold and whatnot. Come back in the dress room, get me out to the fight. I get in the ring and I'm looking across to this guy, and this guy doesn't look like no opponent. He looks like he's a real fighter, like he's a contender. Right. I'm not fighting an opponent, I'm fighting a contender. Anthony Rosser from Schuler's in Philadelphia was my first fight. 10 pro fights this guy had. And his record was like 6-3-1 or something like that. And so he was a winner, and he'd already fought a 10-round fight. Yeah. How they got him to fight me in my pro debut, I don't know.
Was it a 4-rounder?
It was a 4-rounder. Wow. Now, in the corner, no one was telling me. I'm like, who's this guy? Like, this is a true story. Yeah. And, you know, I fight the fight. It's up online for people to see on YouTube and whatnot. Dean Williams, Welsh Road Warrior. You can look up that particular fight. It's on my channel. And I won the fight. I won every round, I believe, and you could see it in the judges' scorecards and whatnot. And when I get out the ring, they interview me, and right at the interview, you know, there's lawyers there, and the TV people are there. I got the TV fight, like everybody see me, and they start interviewing me, and I'm stunned. Mouth is dry, no water, and they're like, "What do you think of that fight?" Dean Williams, they're like, "You just fought a guy with 10 pro fights from Philadelphia." Who just coming off a couple of wins, and I'm looking in the camera thinking, wow, you know, this is the first I heard about this. Yeah. You know, nobody told me nothing. Yeah. So I was just, I don't know how I scuffled through but they were saying, well, if you did this fight in the pro debut, you know, 7 fights you'd be on pay-per-view. Yeah, exactly. And whatnot. But it didn't work out like that. But yeah, that was my professional debut.
Right. And you worked your way up to that. We can't leave out the fact that you said that you had no family except for your girlfriend Tanya,
right?
Who I met when we first met as well. How has that that I guess you could say you guys have traveled this path together? How has it been for you guys? I know personally, not only from having a girlfriend or 2 while I was a professional fighter, but also my mother having a relationship with my father being a professional fighter, how hard it could be on your significant other. How has that been between you and your wife throughout this whole path?
Well, it's a blessing from God. We put together by him and him only, you know, I am a kid, you know, being pulled this way and that way by, you know, the people in the boxing game, you know, managers and trainers and all sorts of stuff. And, you know, she comes into my life, and it really was a blessing. And she had no family neither. Her dad didn't really want to know her. And, you know, a man passed when she was like 11 years old. And it was just her grandmother. So she had no family neither. And that's why it was just a beautiful thing, like, you know, but we became best friends. And we remain best friends to this day, 25 years later. And I couldn't have done what I'd done as a professional fighter. I don't know, the real deal Adrian, because that's where she is at the end of the day. You know,
people don't really understand how much your spouse plays a part in
huge, man.
What you have to do.
Absolutely, huge.
Whether it comes from your diet. She probably had to wake you up sometimes.
Right. Yes.
You know, you remember those days, you know, where you were like, man, I don't want to do it. Tanya was like, yo,
Tanya was, Tanya was like, you got to do it. She was my number one supporter. She was there. I've been experienced, been around everybody. Miguel Cotto, Manuel Stewart, like, you know, Tanya's John David Jackson.
Yeah.
You know, wherever camp I've been in, Tanya's there.
Tanya's there for some of my fights.
Amen. That's right. That's right. That's right. So you know.
Yeah, I know.
You know Tanya is.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? If anybody wants to follow the blueprint of having a spouse, having someone there to support you, they should be following you.
Amen.
And Tanya's path.
Yeah.
How many professional fights did you end up having?
I had 20 professional fights. My record was 16-4 with there was like, I think I got like 12 or 13 knockouts. Mm-hmm. You know, I was real heavy-handed to fluctuate the weight. The few times I started off as a cruiserweight, and I went all the way down to a super middleweight for a fight or two. And whatnot. Got a short notice fight with Miguel Kessler. Mm-hmm. You know, they called me up a couple of days, and you know, you want to fight, and you know, towards the end of your career, it was like, you know, do you want to come to Denmark? And I was like, okay, well, you know, if you want to come by yourself, then we'll give you a lot more, kind of thing. You know, that's the way it goes. Going to Europe is a tough task. Yeah. So I went to Denmark alone and was in the ring with Kessler. I made a really good account of myself, but you know, I haven't had the, you know, jet lag and not making any excuses. The guy's a legend. He's a great fighter and whatnot, but I definitely wasn't at my best. I would have loved to have fought him in Philadelphia. Yeah, and my backyard.
Been talking a lot about the positive sides of boxing. There is that side of when you're on the other side, where rent's due. Might be trying to find a way to find food, gas, shit, like little shit that boxers go through. People don't realize,
right?
And you know, people have to make decisions. You're here making a decision. I'm going to go all the way to Denmark to fight I call him Miguel Kessler. But do you remember how that feeling was when you were like, yo, I'm going to go over here, go overseas by myself, get this money?
Well, I'd already moved from Merthyr in Wales to Australia, and then from Australia to New York. So for me to go for
Denmark,
a fight was like, you know, it was like, you know, it almost felt normal to me.
Right.
You know, it didn't feel like anything.
Right. So you actually ended up winning a title, though.
I did.
Yeah. What title was it?
It was a WBF Cruiserweight World title. I got, believe it or not, I got a short notice call on that too. It was September 11th. All that stuff went down. We all know what happened in September 11th, 2001. And, you know, a few weeks later, I get the call. And I believe I fought on the 21st of September, but the planes, nobody could fly. And they had the fight scheduled against Eric Reinhardt, and the kid who was going to fight him couldn't fly there. So they called me up and you know, offered me the opportunity, and I gave up, I think, about 15 pounds. He was bigger than me, because at that time I was light heavyweight. Mm-hmm. So they were like, you know, do you want to, you know, I said, I'll drive. The opportunities, not every day you got a phone call to fight for a title.
Where was it?
WBF.
No, where?
Oh, where was it? It was in Tennessee.
Okay. You drove to Tennessee?
Drove to Tennessee. It was like 14 hours. It was in, we were up in the Poconos.
Wait a minute. So you drove from the Poconos.
Correct.
To Tennessee.
Yes.
For a world title fight.
Correct.
And won it.
I won it with just my wife, with just my girl Tanya. And I went there, and the odds were against us, but yeah, thank God I won the fight. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. So you're in the dressing room for that one. Who's your coach?
Do you know, I had a couple of people around me. I had a guy called Billy, and he was like, you know, helping out with a lot of fighters. He was a fighter himself, actually, and he was just kind of, you know, I just needed somebody to give me, you know, some water and whatnot, But yeah, my wife was there, and after being around so many, you know, people in boxing and whatnot, she knew, you know, she knew how to keep me calm, keep me focused, and keep me ready, and just kept reminding me that you know what I was there to do.
And fucking,
you know,
sorry, Dad, you're here. But
What'd you
fucking,
say?
I said fucking. They raise your hands at the end of the fight.
Right.
They raise your hands.
Do you know, it wasn't just like that. The kid
Okay.
came out, first round, he broke my nose and blew my eardrum out. And I got back in the stool at the end of the first round. I'm sitting there thinking, you know,
First round?
First round.
Broken nose, broken eardrum?
Broken eardrum. He just came at me. I mean, he had a lot of
Hey,
fights.
sorry, real life Rocky over here.
And
real life Rocky.
I remember being in the stool. I remember the cut man and coach would, you know, I remember Tanya was in the corner and she's right there. And I looked and she's like, just get the jab going, Dean. Just get the jab going. And I was like, you know, it was a little, you know, I was shell shocked, like kind of thing, and just you know, bombarded by everything. But this kid had, you know, gave up the weight and whatnot. He was built like
who was he?
Eric Reinhardt.
Okay.
He had fought a lot of people. He fought Bernard Hopkins and I think Charles Brewer. He fought a lot of good people,
Right.
and a lot of experience. And I was, I think I was like my 12th pro fight or something like that. And so I went out the second round, established my jab like I should have in the first. Started establishing the jab, and he couldn't get near me. He kept coming. He was trying to wriggle his way in, slide in and under my jab, but I just kept timing him. You know, I've been in the ring with Tommy Hearns, two-time heavyweight champ Tim Witherspoon, Larry Holmes. You know, I've already seen a lot of things, like, you know, so I just started coming to myself, and I started timing him coming in, and he was looping. I mean, I'd been in the ring with the best, in my opinion, guy ever to have the overhand, right? Just Tim Witherspoon, like, you know, and so I knew how to deal with it. I'd seen it before, the best. So this is what he was bringing. So I timed it. I threw the jab, he threw it, I came under, and as I came under, I unleashed the left hook to the body and I broke his rib, and that was it. He went down and he couldn't continue. You know, he wanted to get up, but he just couldn't.
So you stopped him?
I stopped him.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's just go back to the beginning. September 11th happened. You're watching planes fly into the buildings.
Right.
You're sitting at home.
Thinking nothing about it.
Former military person yourself.
Right.
Getting the phone call to fight for a world championship. No planes are even flying in the air.
No, everything was grounded at that time.
You say, Tanya, let's pack a week's worth of clothes. Get in the car. They send you money to travel.
Correct.
Send you money. You guys hit the tolls. Everything. Driving to Tennessee. 14 hours. How many hours?
14 hours.
14 hours. You get there. How many days before the fight?
A day before the
fight. A day before the fight. We're not done. A day before the fight.
1 day.
You probably checked. It's a title fight. Did you weigh in the night before?
We did.
So the day before the fight, you weighed in.
We went right in. We go right there in that morning, and we went in the weigh-in later that afternoon, and that's when I met everybody. I hadn't even settled in pretty much.
So you go back to your hotel room. Obviously, you eat, fuel up, wake up the next day. You have a world title fight.
Right.
First round, you get.
That's when I realized what I was in.
Yeah. You had to. That was a hell of a filling out round.
A hell of a filling out round.
You got your nose broken.
They knew that. They knew that. They knew I was calling short notice. They knew I was coming. They knew I drove down there. So their tactics were. I mean, I talked to the fighter after. Their game plan with the coach told me was to jump on me, not let me get my jab a start. They knew I was a boxer puncher.
But you did it from the second round.
From the second round.
From the second round. You end up not only beating the guy, stopping him with a body shot, which is not easy in boxing. We all prepare for the body shot. Usually people get stopped with a body shot. They don't see it coming or something, you know. You stop him with a body shot, get your hands raised. What kind of I wish I was you in that scenario. All right, what kind of feeling is that?
Shock, to be honest with you.
You weren't even there, right? At that
I wasn't
point.
even there. It was almost like, you know, where they were taking pictures. They were putting the strap and the belt around my waist, all I was wanting to know was where Tanya was.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they were all making a fuss out of me. Why people in my face, and it was just like the Rocky movie, where all he cared about was Adrian. It was the same concept. Like I was like, "Where's Tanya? Where's Tanya?" All these people in the ring and whatnot, and it didn't really sink home till I was driving back the next day with a championship belt on my back seat, and I'm going so fast that I get pulled over by a state trooper, and I tell him to try to. He gave me a break. I show him, I'm like, look, I won this last night. You could see that I was bruised up, my nose and whatnot, my ear was messed up, and that was...
It's something that was you'll die with that story.
Yeah.
And just hearing that is like, they need to make a movie out of just the part of where the planes hit the tower to where you won the championship is a movie in itself.
Right.
And that was a pleasure to just hear.
That's awesome.
After you won the championship, what was the next stages in your life? What was the next stages in your career?
Do after, we'd had September 11 and everything, and I had fights, obviously, after winning the belt and whatnot, and boxing's a tough life. Boxing, there's no pension, there's no guarantee. There's nothing, before or after kind of thing. It's only in the moment kind of thing. And, so here I am, and my dad being, in the Navy for like 20 years or whatnot. And one thing I took from my dad was his loyalty to, he taught me loyalty because he's with my mother for many, many years, 60 years, I believe. And so he taught me that. And, he taught me to stand on my own 2 feet, so I thought there's no one around you. Boxing was such it was entertainment business, you don't know where you're going to, sometimes you don't know where you're going to get your next paycheck from, you just don't know. And then people were trying to get opportunity to fight. I had contracts to fight certain fighters. I had a contract to fight in Madison Square Garden with a fighter, and they would pull out. Sean George pulled out of me. There's a Lou DiBella fighter. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right. He's from the Bronx. But I was scheduled to fight him, but they paid me $7,500 to not take the fight. And I wanted the fight at Madison Square Garden because he was a southpaw, and I believed that I could have won that fight. Right. So boxing is a lot of ups and downs. I mean, it's literally like a roller coaster.
Yeah, definitely.
So I wanted something in my life that was a little bit more stable. So I went in the Army. I signed up to go in the U.S. Army, and I was on a green card. A lot of people, were saying that you can't go. You got to be a citizen. But I done my research, and I went in. And I signed up to be a soldier, be an infantry soldier, and that's how I became a citizen of this country. Actually, I became a citizen, and I got some medical, finally got some health care because us fighters
we don't get any.
We don't have no health care, nothing. So I finally had some stability in my life and whatnot, and that's what we were taking at that time.
So you felt that at the end of your career. That you needed stability, and you found it through, because the Army provides kind of a career for you,
And having no family and not being close, and my mom never really wanted to know me or nothing, pretty much shunned me my whole life, So it was almost like, a lot of what I found out is, a lot of guys like myself, they're going to service, they have no family, so you have that family environment, and whatnot. So, but then after I came out, it was a tough transition. I came out and going through things at PTSD and whatnot, and I didn't really know what I was going to do in my life. And then this is where Tanya came back into the equation, where she said, just to get my mind right, just to get just get back to normal and whatnot. She said, you should start training some guys, and I said, well, I don't know about training. She's like, Dean, you've been doing it since you're 8 years old. Yeah. You've done it in 3 countries, around the best of the best. Yeah. Time to stop being that fighter and put that knowledge out there. And I was like, I don't know if I can do it. It was just like Rocky, like, you know, he's like, I don't know. And she gave me that Adrian talk, that Adrian pep talk, where, you know, to believe in myself and to do it, and that I had the tools. And so I started, you know, messing around with guys and whatnot in my neighborhood and winning the Golden Gloves. And then I found myself, you know, in a camp with Emmanuel Stewart, who I'd been around as a fighter, in South Florida, the Heavyweight Factory, Miguel Cotto, Andy Lee, John David Jackson, Nate Campbell, Richard Hall. I mean, the amount of fighters under this one facility was, you know,
you just
elite.
A lot of name dropping.
A lot of name, absolutely. Andre Durrell, Anthony Durrell. You know, there was just so many.
Hopkins?
No, Demetrius Andres.
Demetrius Andres was there. He was just a kid. Demetrius Andres was not where he was today, but I seen him, you know, spar many, many times with Andy Lee and others, and I knew he was going to be a great fighter, great champion. So here I am, and like Manny would he'd say, it's, you know, it's not about you no more, Dean. He said it's about the fighter. You know, so it's not about you. It's about what you can do for the individual, you know, and whatnot. And so it was a transition.
Did you find that for your mental health, that was something that really filled a void, really helped you?
Boxing's therapy. Boxing's been therapy my whole life. You know what? Boxing kept me sober, kept me focused, kept me, you know, doing the right things. It's a disciplined lifestyle, you know, so what I preach. So boxing is discipline. Growing up and doing it where I come from as a gentleman's sport. So, you know, that discipline, that boxing, always kind of being around it kept me, you know, doing the right things. And, you know, I've seen a lot of fighters, you know, doing this, that, and the other. But, you know, I'd stay in the gym and it just kept me clean, kept me sober, kept me, you know.
Right. Did you have an issue with sobriety?
I never did, thank God. I never really did. No, I never really had a problem. You know, I had a problem when I came out the army and whatnot. You know, they give me a lot of medication. That's why I did have a little bit of a problem dealing with things then and whatnot, like mental health and whatnot. But thankfully, the boxing again, you know, getting in shape and the discipline in my body got me through.
I usually say that. I've said it many times on my podcast before that boxing usually does one or two things. It usually puts you on drugs or takes you off.
Amen.
You know, it does one of the two things. It usually puts you on drugs or takes you off. You know, for me, now that I'm retired, I'm like, man, I can eat all the steak I want to eat. I can be with my girlfriend as much as I want to be with my girlfriend. Right. It's easy to go into that path of, you know, destruction, but you found something early on that kept that discipline going.
Absolutely. Even to this day, I still practice what I preach. You know, I train, I stay in shape. I'm 49, I'm almost 50, so... You know, doing the mitt work and whatnot, you know, keeps you young and healthy, like, you know.
Yeah. Do you have any other kind of sports that you enjoy? Any kind of other exercises outside of boxing? We could be so closed in our way of, you got to run, you got to do your strength and conditioning, you got to hit them bags, spar. For me, I love bowling now. Bowling is my alternative.
Never done it.
I've never done it.
Never in my life. Never bowled in my life.
You need to go with me. Yeah, I'll take you. We gotta get that. Yeah, I'll take you. But I found out that doing a sport that is totally unrelated to the sport that I've been doing since I was 8 years old. That's when I had my first competition. I found some therapy in it, and not because I had to challenge other people, which I do challenge other people. I won the spring league last year. I'm challenging myself. Every time I go to the bowling alley, me wanting to beat my last score is what keeps me coming back again.
Love it.
Have you found something in your life, whether it be long distance running, lifting weights, that is outside of boxing that makes you It could be video games. I don't know.
Football, soccer, as
Soccer?
you Americans call it. I mean, it's been a passion
I
of
call it
mine.
football still.
Football, yeah. You mean in the UK.
Not to keep talking over you, I'm sorry, but my son, who lives in Barnsley, England, actually made the Barnsley town team.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
As an 11-year-old. He was playing for Bradford FC, and now he is playing for Bradford FC, but now he also plays for Barnsley as well.
That's impressive.
And ever since I went to the UK, football has been a part of my life.
Right.
I'm at home playing FIFA.
Yeah, we gotta play.
Yeah, we gotta play.
I'll beat you on FIFA.
I gotta get you.
I definitely got
Yeah, you probably got me.
I got him on FIFA.
You know what it is? I don't know how to run plays or anything. I'm doing my best to score. But the UK has given me so many alternatives outside of boxing. Has America given you? Besides soccer, soccer is actually a great one, but we suck at it.
Yeah. Getting better. I mean, most of the top players, like Christian Pulisic, I think he's from Pennsylvania. Actually, plays for Chelsea and whatnot. The US team is definitely, most of the good players are playing in the Premier League. And whatnot. So
we had the one goalie. I forget where. He played for America now.
There's a ton of goalies that played. Played for Howard. I can't think of his name. He does the commentating and whatnot. But they played a lot of top players play in the UK.
Right.
And whatnot. But
so the reason why I keep bringing up, if you had something else, that because you have dabbled now into the acting realm. You become somebody who really enjoys being in front of the camera when it comes to that. But along with you starting boxing when you became 8, I started boxing when I became 8. Along with you going into acting and being in the Creed movie 2, I was in Creed movie 1. They didn't see my face as much as yours. I guess I'm not as good looking, but we both have those things in common.
I know, that's amazing.
We're sitting right here.
That's amazing.
How do you feel about this path, about being an actor, about going into that realm of things?
Do you know how I got into the movie Creed 2 was didn't try out for it, didn't even think. I'd seen the movie Creed 1 and I knew about it. I knew about you being in there, and I was like, wow, all these guys get into the movie and whatnot, but I never really looked into it. But Tanya and I were in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was in a camp down there, and we went to get something to eat. And there's a gentleman walking towards us, and he's got a long trench coat on, he's got an eye patch, and he's got a German Shepherd dog with a long coat. And, there's a lot of homeless people in Atlanta. People's been there, too many. So I said to Tanya, I said, be careful. We're both dog lovers. The dogs are like family to us, And so she went and pet the dog, and I started talking to this gentleman, not realizing, that's why I always tell my young men, too, you never know who you're talking to. So treat everybody with the same respect that you want to be treated with, because you never know. And this was one instance where I'm talking to this gentleman, and he's been in so many TV shows, The Walking Dead and House, and so many things. He's an actor. This is what he does for a living, kind of thing. And we still didn't know who he was, kind of thing. We followed each other on Facebook and whatnot. And then I realized who this guy was I was talking. I was like, oh, wow, I was really intrigued by it. It was really, really awesome. And we kept in touch, but nothing really close. And then out of the blue, years later, he contacts me and explains to me about this opportunity that, with the Creed 2 and everything. And just like that, I went from a kid in Wales, 8 years old, looking up at Sylvester Stallone, Rocky Balboa as my idol. Most fighters would be like, why did you start boxing? Why did you even go to boxing gym? What fighter persuaded you? I got to be honest.
Real one. It was Rocky.
It was Rocky.
It's mind blowing because you go from. We keep going over your journey.
Right.
to actually being in Philadelphia,
Right.
training as a professional fighter yourself, like Rocky did.
Correct.
Visiting the
Running up the steps.
Italian market.
Ran up the steps.
Ran up the steps.
Yeah, amen.
You know, traveling to some of these gyms, understanding the tradition
Right.
of Philadelphia boxing, to actually being with someone. And we're not going to say he put Philadelphia boxing on the map. That's not what he did. But for the person that doesn't know boxing, that person put Philadelphia on the map for them.
Right.
And you are somebody who is in, like when I was in Creed, he came in. I met him before that. He was at boxing matches before. Sylvester Stallone we're talking about. I met him, shook his hand, he kept going. I was just an extra in Creed. You had way more role in your role. He just came in and said hi to everybody. I didn't get to shake his hand that time he left. I realized he was like this tall. All that stuff, you know. But you had a main part. You were Ivan Drago's cornerman. Faces all over the movie. How does it... I keep asking you these, how does it feel? Because I want to know. Personally, I don't care about whoever's watching. Coming from bare knuckle boxing to being in a movie with Sylvester Stallone about boxing, how's that? How can you even put that in words?
Only way I could put it together is, again, you know, faith. God's plan. It's all my life was all God's plan. You know, it's a dream come true. The biggest dream. Dreams do come true. They really do come true if you believe in yourself and you never ever give up.
Definitely.
They really do. I'm on a set of this huge budget movie, and
the food was great.
The food was great. Everything was great. The food, the way I was getting treated, they were treating me like I was a movie star, right? The way they were catering to me and whatnot, dabbing my face like this, and like you just done before this.
That did not happen. I'm about to give
they tried to do it to me, but I was like, I'm good.
It was one of these paper towels.
That's funny.
But you know, I was like on the set. You know, you drive up to a movie set, and we're talking about Hollywood. Main budget where you drive up to the set, people don't realize how much money these people have. I didn't have a trailer. I had to drive every day. But every day that I got on set, I could get whatever breakfast I wanted.
Right.
If I wanted an omelet with shrimp in it, I could get an omelet with shrimp in it.
Amen.
During lunch, you could get steak, lobster, whatever you want. It was ridiculous to think how much money they're spending day in and day out. But I will tell you this, I'll never do it again.
Wow.
I'll never do it again. And this is why. I would rather fight somebody. You have to do that same scene
15 times, 20 times.
And then they change the camera. You have to do that same scene. Then they change the camera. You got to do the same. Then every angle that they could possibly get. I was only in my scene pantomiming is what they call it. I wasn't even talking. I was fake rapping my hands. At the end of the day, I wanted to throw up. There was people in my scene who had to hit the heavy bag the whole day. There's people in my scene that had to jump rope. They're in there taking paper towel.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the lady with the fake weights over there, just because the weights aren't real.
Yeah, right.
Do you remember that experience?
I do.
On set?
You know, so I'm on set, and you know, they're all saying, you know, you can't really, you know, talk to Sylvester Stallone and stuff like that. Well, I respected that. I really did.
Yeah.
He came and talked to me.
Right.
So
right.
He comes on the set. I see him. They're like, there he is, he's Rocky. Well, this is how I met Dolph Lundgren first. We by the ring. I'm hanging out with Michael Buffer. I'm friends with Michael Buffer, sitting right there, and we just talking about. I was talking about actually Tim, and you know, and Larry and stuff, and he's going, we're taking him back, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then he was like, yeah, those are the real heavyweights, and we were just going on about it and having a good conversation. And then all of a sudden, this gentleman comes around you, and puts his hand out, his big hand, and I look at the hand, and I look up like this, and it's Dolph Lundgren. I jump up to my feet, shake his hand, and then Kenny was there, and we shook our hand. He's like, I'm going to be working with you guys, and we were like, wow.
Yeah.
And so then a couple of minutes later, as they were filling up the set, Sylvester Stallone comes on. And he's looking at me, and I thought, man, this guy looking at me like he already knows me, kind of thing. I know he is.
Yeah.
And then he walks right over, and I was like, I was really starstruck.
he's down to earth.
I wasn't really down to earth, and for the first time, so being around famous people, famous fighters and whatnot, I was starstruck first time I met Tim Witherspoon. I seen him knock out Frank Bruno, and now I'm like in the gym with him, and then I'm in the ring with him. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
And he didn't want me to be like that though. Tim was like, nah, he wanted me to throw punches. But so and he started saying to me, I know where you're in Wales. I've been there. I'm looking at him like, this is crazy. Merthyr, and he's like Johnny Owen and Howard Winstone and Eddie Thomas, and I'm thinking, just sitting there, I was just going, wow.
Yeah.
And then he said, about yourself, and I said, I was in the ring with some of the greatest ever too, like 2-time heavyweight champ. He's like, wow, yeah, I've seen him fight many times. Mm-hmm. And we started having this conversation like we know each other. And it went on for a little bit, and then they broke us up. We had to get on set. We got up in the ring. He's in the ring moving around, trying to get a feel for it. And he goes, hey, Dean, what do you think? So I'm like, wow. Get in the ring. I said, it's a little too springy. Like we were moving around on it. And, for Michael B. Jordan and Drago, Victor, who's going to be the opponent, the big guy.
It was bouncy.
It was too bouncy. It was more like a wrestler's. Yeah. So I told them to tighten it up, and they listened to me, tightened it up and whatnot, and it just kind of went from there. He made me feel really comfortable. I turned to Dolph Lundgren, and I said, all you guys are actors. Should I be yourself? He said.
Yeah.
He said, we were shooting a movie about boxing. You got the part because you're the real deal.
Yeah.
And we wanted to be yourself. We just wanted to be like you would be in any other corner, professional fighter, exactly. Whatever. So I was just me.
Yeah. I enjoy that part of the Rocky movies, but not the work. The work is hard.
The work is tough.
Hard.
50 hours, sometimes 70 nowadays.
And you understand how somebody like Tom Cruise, who has to jump from a building to another building, or how they get paid those big bucks, right?
Yeah.
I'm in the scene. My scene is with Andre Ward, Michael B. Jordan, and Harris is his last name. He was in Remember the Titans. He was in The Wire.
He was there too. I took to Harris.
Yeah.
I took to Harris.
So nobody even cared until Sylvester Stallone came in. I'm sitting there because I know who Andre Ward is. I'm like, oh my God, dude. I'm looking at Andre Ward right now. He's in the ring. I'm this close to Michael B. Jordan. All my female friends that I know, they're like, oh my God, can you get his autograph or a picture with him? And Harris I'm talking to him saying, oh, my sister will fucking faint if she knew that we were in the same room together right now. She's loved you since Paid in Full, all that stuff. These are people that I'm that way. Everybody else is like, they don't really know these people or whatever. They're just trying to, as soon as Sylvester Stallone comes in the room, everything shuts down.
Amen.
Everything shuts down. Production shuts down. He's over here as nice as can be, waving to. It doesn't matter if you're the person that has to clean up after us or if you're Michael B. Jordan. He is shaking hands with everybody.
It was awesome. Michael B. Jordan was like shooting jabs into my chest. So
did you believe how good he actually could perform?
Impressive, very impressive. And same as Florian too, who played Victor Drago. He was great too. He had a lot of ability. But the best part about it, I so wanted a picture with Sylvester Stallone, and I'm on set. And I'm a professional fighter, but being the military guy, so I'm being as professional as I can be. Really wanted to get that pic though, somewhere along the line.
You didn't get it.
No, I got it. But the best part about the picture, so we do the scene, where the towel gets dropped in, and I have that towel, by the way, it's in my cabinet. Yes, I do. and then so they drop a towel at the end scene, and you know, we all rush in the ring, and then we're taking a break. We shot it about 15 times. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
And Sylvester Stallone comes around to Team Drago's corner, and as he walks around, I'm like, yo, I said, the Russians, Team Drago, like, and he's laughing. He's like, yeah. So we hung around, and then with that, myself and Chris, who's my partner in crime, I call him, who's working with every day. He's a great guy, and he's an actor too. He's in a lot of shows and whatnot since before and since Creed. And Sylvester Stallone turns around and looks at me and he goes, "Yo, you want to get a pic?" And I'm like, wow.
He asked
me.
Wow.
He asked me. He asked me
crazy,
for the pic.
man.
He looked at Chris. Me and Chris looked at each other. We almost passed out. And we mustered together. And then I was going to Stallone was asking me, but I said, everybody, because I knew all the other guys in Team Drago wanted to get a pic with him.
Yeah.
So I said, boys, I mustered them. I said, yo, Chris, Sean, Kenny, come on, get in the pic. And Sylvester Stallone really liked that I included everybody.
Right.
And then, but you know, I cut them out of the profile pic.
Put it on social media, it's just you. But they probably did the same thing with you, right?
Yeah, they had to leave me in there because I was right next to him, and he put his fist on my chin right here.
Yeah.
You know, and called me champ, and you know, when Rocky Balboa calls you champ, there's nothing else like it.
You know what I like about Sylvester Stallone is, and the very first time that I met him was at a boxing event. You remember Nige Turpin?
I do.
He was a boxer out of Schuler's. He unfortunately committed suicide. He was part of Sylvester Stallone, Sugar Ray Leonard's that show, The Contender, and he passed away.
God bless him. I didn't know that.
Yeah. He unfortunately he committed suicide. So
wow.
Schuler's had a boxing match on Market Street, and Sylvester Stallone showed up, and he gets a lot of flack, I guess you could say, from people because he is a fictional character who has made a lot of money off of Philadelphia boxing. But what I found that was very good about what he did that night was he said out of his mouth, yeah, I played a fictional character, but there's a lot of fighters out here that deserve recognition. There's a lot of people out here that put their lives on the line. He paid for Nige's funeral. He was there at the funeral. I don't want to say that he carried the casket, but I remember him being a big part of the funeral. So Sylvester Stallone, yes, he's made 100 Rocky movies, but he also has given back to Philadelphia and has also verbally spoke his mind and has said, look, I'm just a fictional character. There are these guys out here that are risking their lives.
Right.
A lot of people don't really get to hear that from him. I got to hear that live at a boxing event, and I just want to let people know that. Now, for you, have you ever thought about joining the Actors Guild or joining the union to be an actor whenever they have a show in town for you to come up and be a part of it?
I would love to do that. I would be very interested in doing something like that. Absolutely, you know. Boxing to me is my life.
Yeah.
It isn't just a sport. It's my life. You know, boxing. You know, it saved my life in so many ways and whatever. So anything I can do to give back to boxing, and also with boxing, you know, Schuler's, we both trained there. Yeah. We sparred there. We spit blood there many times. Yeah, you know, it's a hardcore. Buster has been nothing like family to me. He treated me like family every time since the first day I went there. I'm sitting next to Demetrius Hopkins. Yeah. Lacing up my boots, and first time I was ever there in Schuler's, and I sparred Frank Walker, who's a tough guy, but I tore him up, and he was so angry at me. He's like saying to Buster, he said, "Who's this white? Who's this killer? You bring this killer."
Are you lighter now than you were back then?
I might be a little bit. I'm 180 pounds.
Okay, you were fighting.
I was right around, like cruiserweight, like around what I started my pro debut, I think it was about 196.
Okay.
You know, so then when I was working, you know, with your dad and Larry and I'd be probably walking around about 198, 200 pounds.
Yeah.
You know.
Cool. So you're here, you know, you've had a long journey. You're not even 50 yet.
Right.
You know, you had a lot to contribute. You're contributing to kids. You know, you're in movies now.
Yeah.
What's next for Dean Williams? What do you think is the next move for you?
Well, the next move is you know, it's God's plan, but right now I'm doing you know, some things with your dad, with the two-time heavyweight champ Tim Witherspoon. You know, he's blowing up his YouTube channel. You know, with our good friend Brian. You know, who's giving really good direction and whatnot. And you know, as we see a lot of people, you know, putting out boxing knowledge and whatnot, and they've never done it. I mean, I've been doing boxing 41 years. You know, your dad's been doing it forever too, and you know, it's real. We speak in real knowledge. We speak in from experience. You know, and I know a lot of MMA fighters, UFC fighters, and Bellator can really gain a lot of you know, success from what we can bring to the table. So you know, it's God's plan what He wants from me next. I just stay positive and keep my faith strong, and but I see, you know, me teaming up with your dad and obviously with yourself. I'm going to come down here, you know, do some training and whatnot, and get involved with everybody locally and to see where it goes.
Definitely.
You know,
you like the area?
Pardon?
You like the area?
I love the area. I think Bristol is a great place. I love Philadelphia.
Bristol, Pennsylvania, not Bristol, UK.
Right. I grew up not too far from Bristol, UK too, about an hour away actually, in Wales.
Yeah.
But Bristol, USA. I love it.
Right.
You know, so we're going to see what it takes us.
Right. So what I need from you right now, because we're closing, this is the end of the podcast, and at the end of the podcast I ask my guests to spread a message to the world, rather it be what you think that the world needs, what you want to give to the world, whatever. This is your chance to give a message to the people who have never seen Dean Williams, or the people that do know Dean Williams, and tell us
I'll give the message. You got to believe in God. You got to believe in faith. You know, God is the creator. Jesus is my role model, is my true, real role model. You know, and that's, you've heard my journey. You've heard what I've gone through with no family by my side, no friends, you know, just a very rough, tough upbringing, and then a very rough, tough journey. You know, it wasn't like, you know, walking down the yellow brick roads, you know, living in different countries. You know, it was very tough. Going in different boxing gyms from I'm from another country. I'm from Wales. I'm from Merthyr Tydfil. So I'm going in Schuler's sparring. I'm in the Lion's Den. You know, I'm going to spar with Larry Holmes or Tim Witherspoon. You know, they from here. Like, you know, like even Larry was impressed that I came all the way from Wales, so I was in his backyard. You know, so what got me through that and you know, helped me accomplish all my dreams come true is faith, true faith in God, and you know, being a good human being, you know, treating people how I want to be treated, you know, with love and respect and honesty, loyalty to my wife, you know, loyalty is everything, I believe. And, you know, so I believe in, you know, just having strong faith. I believe that, you know, in any relationship, Tanya and I, we put God first, and then we, you know, it goes from there, like, you know, but yeah, my message would be, believe there is a God, and if you really believe in yourself, dreams do come true. You just got to follow them, and the secret to success is just never, ever quitting, never give up.
Right. So, you know, usually when I interview boxers, I feel like that's it, man. They box, that's it. They're working at a factory.
Right.
You know,
right.
They're in the union. doing something like that, but I really feel like you're only halfway. I feel like you've done all these things and you're only halfway. You got another half to run.
The best is yet to come.
The best is yet to come.
Best is yet to come.
And I'm here. I'm like, dang, I've known you my whole life.
Yeah.
But we never really got a chance in my adult life.
Right.
In my adult life, I was fighting. So
right.
You would come to my fights.
Yes.
We would say
Sparred
hi.
my
Whatever,
guys.
Spar your guys. Do exhibition.
Yes.
But we never really got a chance to sit down.
First
like
time
this.
my year. First time my year.
To hear your story, to hear everything, is nothing but a success to be still standing here, still in the sport, sober.
Amen.
Still being able to think.
Yes. Blessed.
And to be moving and have things to happen for you in the future.
Absolutely.
That's only 4 things that I can think of right now, but those are positive things for any fighter to want to do when you're done fighting. So for that, I commend you. You're a role model for a lot of fighters.
Thank you, champ.
You gotta keep it going.
Thank you, champ.
And I'm happy to have you on the podcast.
Thank you.
This is the Young Black Suburban.
Appreciate it. Thank you, champ.
You guys will see us on the next one. Yeah.
You got to subscribe
and link. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Before we cut off, tell people where they can find you.
Dean Williams, Welsh Road Warrior. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. YouTube, Dean Williams, Welsh Road Warrior. You subscribe to me, I'll subscribe back to you. You know, Tim, 2-time heavyweight champion, Tim Witherspoon, subscribe to his channel too. We are collaborating. We're going to do a lot of big things together. This is just the beginning. We're going to start bringing world-class fighters together, working with world-class fighters together. We're going to train them. We're going to guide them in the right direction from my experience and from Tim's experience. We're going to make great things happen. There's nothing like the most priceless thing you can get in the world that a lot of people ignore is wisdom. You should never ignore wisdom. Wisdom will give you so much things that you don't even know. So, please subscribe to our channels. Tim Witherspoon, heavyweight champion of the world. Subscribe to his channel. Yeah. Dean Williams, Welsh Road Warrior. Subscribe to my channel. And we'll be seeing you, and keep watching out.
If you're interested in getting into the next Rocky movie, he knows Sylvester.
I know a couple of people.
He's personally. All right, guys, that's the Young Black Suburban. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, brother. God bless. Awesome.